Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for your time and attending this demo session. So, walk you through in terms of how Swimlane can help our customers managing the centralized fraud case management. And in this demo, I'll talk through the workflow that you see over here. In terms of, let's say we are integrating to a fraud detection platform, we are able to receive the alert via a webhook, which is a real-time basis event that we are going to process. And along the process, we'll do the automated enrichment, which we search through the historical transaction information. It can also be information related to the user profile. And when we need to, we can also look up to the external third-party threat intelligence platform information when it comes to the account details. So it can also be back to the fraud detection platform as well if they have the fraud related threat intel. So on top of that, Swimlane also provide the correlation functionality out of the box so that we can correlate the different source of event. So one sort of event can be coming from the fraud detection platform. It can also coming from, let's say, the email cases being created by a third-party channel. And likewise, if the bank is tracking the customer complaints via, let's say, some other system, ticketing system, we can also ingest those information and then we do the correlation within the same platform itself. So essentially from the business outcome, for the fraud analysts to definitely save time for them so that they don't need to work on the duplicated cases when these concerns are being brought up. And what is more important is that Swimlane can integrate to any tools provided the API is available. And this is where we can trigger the action from the Swimlane platform itself when it comes to, let's say, if you need to do some form of account management to freeze the account or unfreeze the account when certain fraudulent type of transaction are being detected, you can definitely do so. And likewise, we can also integrate to, let's say, SMS gateway to trigger the notification to the end user or to the victim who are being impacted from the fraudulent transaction directly whenever the account activities are being performed, for example. And then we can also conditionally send the email approval request. So for example, when internet fraud kind of cases are being detected, so you may need to seek approval from internet stakeholders and also the reporting line manager, for example, to do a review before you suspend a particular fraudulent account. And we also have internet case for this particular fraud case management use case, which the fraud analyst can actually collaborate and share their updates or comments based on what they found and investigated. So this is especially useful when the team members need to hand over the case from one shift to another. So the subsequent shift can actually follow up based on the comments or findings being shared from the previous team member who work on the case. And we can definitely work with the fraud detection platform to enhance or tune the fraud detection mechanism based on the latest case finding, for example. And lastly, with all the information that we can gather, we assume it as a system of record that we can track from the source of event in terms of the information coming to the system. And then on top of that, what we can enrich based on the third-party integration and as far as the action that we have taken against each and every cases, each and every case in the system, we can actually generate a very useful dashboard and report, I would say, for the different persona from the analysts in the team to the executive of the management level. And further into the demo later, I will specifically simulate two different transactions. So one is based on the mail account detection, and then another one for the internet fraud detection. To start with, I will start with the dashboarding first from the high level. So you can look at this dashboard as the management or the executive dashboard, where you can do a drill down or slice and dice. when it comes to, let's say, based on each and every case that we have captured in the system, how many of those are actually new, in progress, or closed, for example, followed by the fraud type, be it in the example here, you can see whether it's a new account being detected, determined by the by the fraud detection platform, or whether it is related to transactional kind of fraud or internal fraud. And then followed by this is sort of like a detection rule or the business rule being defined. So there's another level down from the general breakdown of these categories of fraud type. We break down to the business rule over here, and followed by I would say a classification, whether it is still being unknown or it has been marked as suspect or not fraud or determined as fraud, for example. Okay, and this is also where it is useful information to further tune the detection platform, whether they're picking up the false positive or true positive event and cases. Okay, and then for other visualization idea, so this is actually out of the box in terms of when it comes to the business intelligence capability. You can actually create a dashboard report like this using a pie chart, and then by the numbers chart like this, right? Break down by the different fraud type, and then by the security. And then you can also have a view on the case trending, which is grouped by the date of creation. And further on that, you can see another dimension, which is by the different fraud type. So from here, you can also easily spot the pattern, whether certain type of fraudulent transaction or activities are being detected on a specific day. Okay. When it comes to the analyst view, I would say, so if you need to fine tune the detection performance with the fraudulent detection platform, so this is where we can focus on the business rule being defined, which we have ingested this kind of event or fraudulent cases. And then again, another idea in terms of how you can visualize the data using the slice and dice method, which we call this as the Sankey chart. Essentially, as long as the data fields are available in the case record itself, you can change this data point according to what you want to have a look and investigate further from the visualization standpoint. And then another bar chart, horizontal bar chart, for you to do drill down by the severity of the fraud type. All right. How does a case looks like actually in this platform? Okay. So this one idea that some of our customers has implemented. Essentially, on the left-hand side that you see over here, you see the important information, for example, the timestamp, who is currently owning the case, what's the status of this case, which you can actually update and add additional case life cycle status according to the process that you want to track. And then security, typically this is being mapped to the source of event. For example, the threat detection platform or the fraudulent detection platform will actually tell you what is the security. And then classification, so it can be updated automatically based on the intel coming from, let's say, third-party information when it comes to the account information, or it can also be manually updated by the analyst, for example, like myself, when I'm interacting with this particular fraud case. I can update it according to my findings, my investigation result. So other information for the fraud case perspective is you definitely want to have a case ID for tracking. So this can be coming from external case or external detection platform. And then on top here is where we have the internal case ID for reference, right? So it depends on how the setup is being done in the environment. Then other important information is like, let's say the account details, whether the account status are still active, the account name, which is being masked currently, and then whether it's saving account, current account, when was the date being established, and whatever not, right? Other important information that is useful for investigation point of view is where was this account opening is being done. So let's say it is being done via a website. This is where you can also capture those information like public IP address being used during the point of registration. And then when it comes to determination of whether the account is expecting high amount of balance or low amount of balance. So the income range being declared might be an indicator to use to determine whether there are some weird behavior being observed, right? And then related account numbers. So let's say if the person has multiple accounts, so this is where the correlation can be done as well. Depending on the I would say the business logic and process being defined there. Then further down, there's another section here that tracks specifically on the transaction details. So this is where we capture the information like what is the fraud type being reported from the fraud detection platform. And then what is the scoring? Let's say from 0 to 10 or 1 to 10, right? How severe it is. And then when was it detected? What was the business rule being defined that picked up this particular transaction amongst the um, amongst the overall transaction being processed by the bank, for example. Okay. And then when it comes to the action, right? So let's say, fine, we have this case created. We know what are these transaction details are being captured. And then this is where we can integrate to the different tools. So at the current screen, you see 4 different action where you can do account management action like, do you want to freeze the account, unfreeze it? Or you want to validate the transaction with the end customer. So let's say sending an SMS notification or email with the customer to get some confirmation if they actually triggered the suspicious or the fraudulent activities. And then lastly, it can also be, let's say, a notification to another bank, for example, that is involved in this particular transaction. So this list can grow depending on the process and the tools that is being used by the fraud team in terms of what you want them to control and trigger from this panel. And other than that, we have information like this, whether we are capturing the response after freezing the account, unfreezing the account, and so on and so on, right? When it comes to approval process, we have the concept of defining the template. So let's say based on different case type, you can actually define the notification template for the analyst to trigger the notification to be sent, for example. So although I'm simulating this like a manual approach, this can actually be fully automated, which I will show in another demo later. Let me give you an idea of how it can look like after in this case. So based on the template defined, I actually configured the recipient list in terms of the two CC and PCC in the email format. And then in the email subject, I'm actually pulling the severity from the case record details and then followed by the case ID, which is created uniquely in this system itself. And then when it comes to the email body, similarly, we can actually define the template, the notification template according to the different use case or different type of fraud that you have detected. And then we can help to populate automatically the information that we gather from the case itself. And then one other important factor that I would like to highlight is actually the action list. So this is actually what the recipient of this notification will receive. And with this, you can also predefine the set of response to expect from the recipient and use this response as a trigger for the subsequent automation playbook. For example, when you get an approval to block an account, to freeze an account, for example. So this one will capture the action, and then we use that as the condition to block the account afterwards. And then other important information would be, like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to handover of the information between the team members that is working in different shift, or they just need to hand over because they need to escalate to another level or another group of user, for example. So this is where they can post their comment, and then we tag that as part of the case. Um, so this will be useful for the knowledge handover as well between the team members. And then automate the summary. If they want to populate the summary based on the case details, we can also help to populate that accordingly. And then generate a user report and then send an email, for example. Other than that, out of the box, we do have the audit trail when it comes to the record revision so that you know who has changed what. And then the before after. Let me do a brief view. Um, Case last updated by me, yes. And then other information updated by the system itself. So you can also see what has been changed before and after. Okay. And then I think it's time for a demo. Let me show you. Let me go back to the list of cases that I have in the system currently. I'm going to simulate two use cases. So the first being, let's say, whenever a new case being created as fraud type, new account, then I will freeze the account upon the case created. Okay. Let me simulate that from my tool. And I'm going to trigger the event to be sent. So based on that, I'm expecting case to be created. Okay, that's fine. Then new case created. And upon the case creation, uh, for this particular fraud, uh, so I missed the point out. So whenever the fraud type is actually new account, will automatically trigger the freeze account action to run, and that's where you see that response over here. Okay. Um, so let me simulate another scenario where we may need approval when the internal fraud type is being detected. Uh, Let me see. Yeah, let's go back to the list first, and then I'll simulate from my simulator once again. Okay, come back here. Let's see. Okay, new case created with internal fraud type. And then now when we load the case itself, I'm expecting the approval email has been sent out, has been loaded and sent out. Yes, that's been loaded. Yeah, it's still running. Okay, so the running still. Wait another few seconds. Okay, yeah. Okay, the notification has been sent. Let me open up my email. um, that I'm expecting to receive the approval request. And it looks like this, exactly what we have defined in the message template area. And along with that, you can also see the unique case ID, corresponding case ID. And let's say I'm approving this particular action to, let's say, freeze the account. So close this one. And server value. So this is where you can see we are actually capturing the response based on what the user has clicked on from the response list. And then what was the channel being used? So in this case, I'm using an email. It can also be a Teams or Slack message, and then followed by the response timestamp. And with the response timestamp, it is also useful to use that as a, I would say, SLA. If you need someone to approve something within, let's say, 6 hours, 4 hours, right? It's based on what you have set for as a process. You can also use that to send another reminder if you don't see any response being received within the stipulated SLA timestamp. Okay, then let's say now I apply and then save. So yeah, so what I've actually configured as well. Let me refresh this one. Yeah, we should have captured the response earlier. Um, we should be shown at this particular field. And based on this field, I've actually configured the automation to run and freeze the account accordingly, like this. So meaning you can actually set a human into loop kind of process, approval process, to do a review before we automate the subsequent action. Okay. And then when it comes to the automation playbook, how do we actually configure those conditions? It's based on something like this. So this is how the playbook editor looks like for you to configure the automation. So it can be a playbook button, which we call it. So this is actually corresponding to the case layout. Let's say the case account button. Okay. And then another trigger would be based on, let's say, account creation or update. Whenever let's say the account is being updated with approval obtained from the approval. So this is where we will trigger the subsequent action. And what's more important is you actually have the full autonomy to configure the condition. Uh, and it can also be more than one combination of more than one fields as a condition for you to trigger the subsequent action. And then since I'm in this playbook editor, and this is where we call the low code platform, right? You can actually design the workflow. Let's say if you need to do some form of looping through a list of items, you can do something like this, do a drag and drop. And then you define what is the subsequent action that you want to do, right? Or if you do an if else, very straightforward. Another condition that you can put in between the workflow, and then determine whether certain condition has been fulfilled before we proceed to the next course of action. And then other than that, you also have the list of supported actions provided by Swimlane, fully supported by us. So as of today, we have more than, I think easily 500 plus different connectors and up to 6,000 actions and playbook that you can actually implement into the system. So this will be especially useful when you have many tools that you need to integrate with into the automated workflow. But at the same time, we don't need to worry about the integration cost or integration fee because we already have many of those tools being pre-built. And then when there's a new tool that you need to integrate with, provided it has the API document for us to integrate with, we will study it and then we'll do the integration for free as part of the subscription. And then lastly, coming to the layout of the case, based on what you see here for the case layout. So for different customer, we understand that you may need to track different information, different data field, right? So this is where you can actually add on additional data fields by the respective data type that you want to add. For example, it's a text field, numeric field, or a selection field, which provide a drop-down list, and then you can design how the drop-down list looks like for the user to choose, pick and choose. Okay. So again, this would be very flexible that you don't need to come back to us for a change request like a CR, and then there's no cost involved for such kind of for such changes. You have the full autonomy to do so. Okay, I think that's the end of my demo, and feel free to reach out if you have any other question. And if you like to have a deeper dive, feel free to reach out to Johan and myself. Thank you very much.